Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, welcome to our show. We have gathered together from the cosmic reaches of the multiverse, two of the nerdiest geeks to be found. We proudly present the Professor and her geeky girlness herself, Ace. And now it's time. Geeky KOOL Presents Professor and Ace.
Hello everyone.
Hi.
We are here for Geeky KOOL Presents Professor and Ace, episode 63.
I'm so
Woo!
excited. Like, seriously, did you think it was going to go
like,
this long?
Like totally?
Totally.
Like, yeah. Actually,
Like-
I'm very excited. I usually use my professional voice with the intro. I just decided I was going to try to do something Valley Girl since we're talking the 80s, but then I didn't do a very good job with it. But yeah.
I could have done it.
Yeah, I prepped it earlier, and then my brain just went.
My mom used to get so mad at us when we did the Valley Girl thing. My cousin Rachel was the worst. She was the gag me with the spoon girl.
Gag me
Like,
with a spoon.
And Jeannie, seriously, gag me with a spoon.
Do you remember the dead Smurfette? Gag me with the dead Smurfette.
It's terrible.
Like, totally, as if, yeah.
Oh, right?
So tonight we're going to talk about my favorite decade, the 80s, because I still live there in my head.
He does.
I do. I love the 80s. I can't help it. It's my go-to. And it all started because we were talking about what we're going to do this week, what we're going to talk about. Went back to our typical well of talking about movies because we love movies.
We are movie people.
We are
movies
movie
and
people.
TVs.
Yes,
TV
exactly.
shows. Love
Entertain us. We're going to talk more TV at some point. And actually, I have an idea. But anyway, for this week, we wanted to talk about that. And I suggested we talk about an area that we had not really talked a lot about, which are teen movies, which can be anything from teen dramas to comedies to romance, horror movies. I mean,
he gives me this teen. Let's talk about teen movies, and I'm like, can we narrow it down a little bit? Because even though I knew when he said teen movies in his list and in his mind, it was 80s teen movies. Because
mostly
that's when the genre really took up and to the point of becoming its own genre and not just, something else. But I love some teen movies from the 60s and the 50s and stuff like that.
I agree.
But it was just too broad, and I don't want to be talking on here for 3 to 4 hours. So I was like, please narrow it down. And I knew that he would go, let's do 80s, because I know most of his favorite teen movies are from the 80s.
Well, I was a teen, and you were a young teen at that point.
I was.
And somehow you time traveled and maintained this beauty at this age where I'm the old grizzly fart that some people get off my lawn. But
I became a teenager.
Yes.
The last year of the 80s.
That's what I said. Very young. And the last year of the 80s was my last year as a teenager. So do the math, people, if you like. That's fine. I'm a time traveler. It's fine. And if the doctor can be 900 years old, or actually 1,000, whatever he is, she is now, that's fine. But
by the way, we did go see that show. But we went on a double date with my niece that I raised.
Yes.
And
what show?
Shang-Chi.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Shang-Chi. Yeah.
My mind doesn't want to work today.
I really enjoyed that movie. We'll have to do a review of that movie.
I liked it a lot. So we'll have to talk about that sometime.
Because it's a great martial art movie set in the MCU.
I know, and it didn't quite feel like an MCU movie, but did in the same time. It wasn't. Yeah.
Well, but a lot of the MCU movies will do that. I mean,
the good ones.
Well, I think most of them are pretty good. But anyway, we digress. We're going to talk 80s teen movies.
80s teen movies.
People also have to know, Ace really likes things narrowed down. She likes to have that box. and I don't have a box, and
Well,
I can't find my box. And
my thing is, and that's my quote. You can't use my quote against me.
no, you said you're gonna build something out of the box. I'm just still looking for the box.
Like, where was the box? I could have built something with it. My thing is just, it's such a broad subject.
It is.
Teen movies. It's like saying, what's your favorite drama ever? Like the
Rebecca.
So many. I know. But and I can pick one, like my top one was my favorite teen movie of all time.
Mm-hmm.
So I can pick the one. It's just all the other ones.
And I knew which one it was. So so I marked it off my list because I knew you had that one. Then you took another one of mine that I thought,
there were so many, even going 80s teen movies, guys.
Oh.
Like I said, the 80s is when the teen genre really, really picked up steam.
Yeah.
They
the
had
golden age.
They had several teen movies. You know, you had Gidget. You have the teen beach movies like Beach Blanket Bingo, Ned and Frankie things and stuff like that in the 60s and the 70s. Some of them in the 50s. You had Tammy with, Debbie Reynolds, and then Sandra Dee played Tammy. So you had those, but they weren't as epic or as every week a new teen movie came out. In the 80s,
this is true.
Every week a new teen movie. Not quite, but you know what I mean. There were so many teen movies that came out in the 80s. So this was very difficult. I tried to pick ones. There are probably ones that I like just as much as some of the ones I picked, but I tried to pick some of them that are a little bit more obscure.
Mm-hmm.
But that I love. Like if I find it on TV, I'm watching it. So
right, exactly. Mandy's got this to say to us. Hey, Mandy.
We love Mandy.
We do. We thank you, Mandy, for watching. And feel free to drop any sort of movie in here. Now, I wanted to, because I made a big list, and I joked with, after I narrowed it down and gave in to narrowing it down to 20, I then told AJ, I'm like, we're doing 20 of them, right? Because that's kind of my list size. It wasn't quite 20, but I had a long list, and I'm just like, man, these are just the ones I'm thinking off the top of my head,
right?
That I really love. So I wanted to give my list that we're not going to use, just to rattle off names, not to talk about them, just to say here are some that were in consideration. Because I know what your list is, and I know my list, so you don't know my list, so there may be other ones on here. So, and we can do your list of ones that should have made it, or we would have thought may have made it, but didn't after we're done here. So here are some that I have on the list that did not make it for either one of us. Weird Science.
Love it.
Stand By Me. Red Dawn is a great teen movie.
It's just a different kind of movie.
It is, but it's all teens. I mean, it's Nightmare on Elm Street.
I almost put that one on, but then I'm like, it's a very touchy thing because it's like it's also in the horror genre, and so
it is. Well, there's a lot of cross genre stuff out there.
Oh yeah.
Last Starfighter is a teen movie. I love that movie. Footloose somehow did not make our list. Say Anything did not make our list.
Okay.
And Fame.
It was almost on my list. Say Anything was almost on my list.
Yeah. Well, how can you not with the boom box? I mean, that scene alone puts it on the list.
Nope. That's not the scene. That is not the scene.
Okay, what's the scene?
The scene is the dinner table when they ask him what he wants to do, and he's like, "I don't want to buy anything that's sold or bought or
that's true.
Process that's in like that." That just made that movie so much more fun for me. I love that line. No,
that's a great scene. But the iconic scene of holding the boom box to try to get back. Yeah, I mean that's the iconic scene. That's all I'm saying.
First of all, John Cusack, anything he did, The Adventures of Natty Gann. He started off as a nerd in Pretty Pink. Like anything he did.
16 Candles.
16 Candles. Sorry,
yes,
16 Candles.
Which was not on our list either.
I know.
Somehow. Pretty in Pink, 16 Candles. I also meant to mention those.
I kind of tried to limit, because I could just do like my top 10 John Hughes movies.
Right. Oh, yeah, right. Exactly.
So I tried to limit and give you a wide variety. So,
well, I did the same thing.
Ferris,
but yeah,
my
it's
first day off didn't make my list. Like all kinds of things.
well, but it may be on other people's. So
It
we're
might
gonna.
be, but
That's
you
what
know
I'm
what I'm
saying.
saying is like there's so many movies that didn't make our list.
Oh, right. I know. That's why I said, well, I'll let you give some more once we're done. So let's get started with this because I'm excited to talk about these movies because, again, I'm an 80s geek and I love movies. So let's do your first one. And I know you said 1 and 2 were kind of set and the rest were kind of...
And they flip. 1 and 2 flips. It just depends on what kind of mood I'm in because one's more comedy-ish and one's more
That's true.
drama.
That's true.
But the rest of them that I have, there's no particular order to them. I just love them. And so we'll actually start off with one that is complete nonsense, that is super fun, has music, it has magic, it has Zelda from Poltergeist, you know, the little woman. Yeah. And that is Teen Witch.
Yeah.
Now, this is like when I was growing up, I wanted magical powers. And this is before the Harry Potter phase, you know.
Right.
And Teen Witch, look at the hair, first of all. Like,
it's beautiful hair.
It's such beautiful hair.
I don't care what people talk bad about 80s hair. Yes, there were people that went to extreme, but that's amazing. I don't care who you are. That looks good today.
Wait, and here's the thing: the shoulder pads, and you don't see the bottom of the dress, but the bottom of the dress has like the tutu kind of thing.
Yeah.
This show was so much fun when I was growing up. And one that didn't make my list was Heavenly Kid. I actually have the DVD set I have both of them on one set. But this was just like a really fun, a little bit offbeat, you know, her brother gets turned into a dog. A dog. You know, he's yelling at her and she just turns him into a dog. None of it is based in reality. None of it is stuff that would actually happen. It's fun. And it's kind of like Sabrina the Teenage Witch before that whole thing started.
Right.
Within the 90s with the TV series. This was my introduction to a live action witch. A teenage witch. And you have rap in it, which is something that when I was growing up was not very prevalent in this area. Once in a while you'd have people, and this isn't like gangster rap or anything like that. This is just rap, and it was one of those that
80s rap. 80s rap music was pop rock infused rap. Yes.
And you just have this great fun. This is on my 40th birthday, like several years ago now. I had an 80s movie themed birthday party where everybody got to dress as their favorite characters from any 80s movie. And we just like watched videos and we played games and all kinds of stuff. And this was the first movie that I had people watch because not very many people knew of it.
Right.
And I just love this. Robin Lively is amazing in it. And Zelda, of course, was always such an amazing actress and one that people don't give enough credit to. So
I agree completely. Yeah, I'd love a birthday party like that. That sounds really fun.
Oh, it was so much fun. It was like 5 years ago though now. Dang.
Yeah, my 40th was more than 5.
Are you there?
Hey, my say for.
So Larry, you're cutting out completely.
Am I? That's weird. Hold on.
Like that whole thing. I heard my 40th birthday was longer than that, and then it was, and I don't know if it's just me or if it might just be me. So if Mandy, you're listening, and the 80s styles are coming back. Maybe not quite as much of the big hair, but some of the clothes are. Mandy, if you're listening and if his mic was cutting out, let us know. So I know if it's me or him.
Yeah, that's weird. I don't know what happened there either. But anyway, so yeah, 80s styles are coming back. And that's good because, you know, with moderation, the bright neon colors are everywhere.
They are. Mom jeans. Mom jeans are a thing.
Yeah.
Why? I don't know. They even have the triple mom jeans. I'm not sure what that's about, but it's what it is. We hated the mom jeans in the 80s. They were called mom jeans for a reason. Our moms wore them.
Right.
But, I just think it's a fun movie. If you guys haven't seen it, please watch it. If you are a fan of, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, or not Sabrina, the new Netflix, The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. I'm talking about the Melissa Joan Hart Sabrina. If you're a fan of that, you're going to be a fan of this movie.
Right on. Right. Yeah, it's a fun movie. I totally forgot about it until you posted it and went, oh, yeah. Okay. Awesome. So
that's the
there
fun
we go. It is the fun thing about this. Well, I'm going to go with my first pick being a classic that most everybody should know. And if you don't know it, you need to go watch it. If you've got kids, you need to watch it with your kids because it's a kid-friendly one. Not all of our movies on this list will be kid-friendly. I am telling you that. But this one definitely is. The Goonies are good enough. This is such a fun adventure film. Sean Astin and the whole cast is amazing. But I realized how much I like Sean Astin, that he's in everything. And I'm just amazed by him as an actor with all the different characters he can play.
Corey Feldman is in this. And it's just, this great ensemble of kids and kid actors that are characters. They're characters. A lot of times when you have like an ensemble cast, it's really difficult because it focuses on one character more than the other.
Right.
And this one really doesn't as much. You get to know these characters really well. You get invested in them. And I remember watching it as a kid and thinking, I want to go on an adventure.
No doubt.
Pirate ship. Like, I want to find maybe not the scrapes with death with the Finellis, but I want to go on an adventure.
But that's what makes it fun is that you don't know.
So, let's just say this. Everybody always talks about the guys in Home Alone being like the best fumbling villains ever. I think they forget about this movie.
I agree with you, yes.
The Finellis are just amazing fumbling family of criminals. Like, it is, they bring this movie so much comic relief, in which it didn't need really, because the kids, their personalities already have that. But oh my god, yes, they just bring this humor, and they bring a humor that's more adult without being a too adult.
Right.
And
it's a very kid-friendly movie with adventure and fun and treasure and pirate. And bad, really bad in their, not even the mother. I swear she could kill anybody. She was nasty. So, but all I can say is, I'm not going to do the shuffle truffle for you guys, but I could.
Again, you're cutting out.
Did you lose me again?
I did.
And Mandy said I was cutting out. So, not sure why we're cutting out. That is odd. But what I said was I'm not going to do the shuffle truffle for you guys, but I could.
Okay, so I have a question for you, Larry, because there were two cuts of this movie made. There was the cut that was made for cable TV, and then there was the VHS cut. By the way, anybody who doesn't know what a VHS is should go and check that out before they finish this video. We're talking 80s here. And I swear that this scene was in the movie that I rented, but they said it was only in the cable version, which is weird because I didn't have cable. But do you remember the scene when they're standing outside the restaurant before they're going in, and Data has the teeth and they bite Corey Feldman's butt? That apparently is a cable only thing. And I'm like, I don't think it was.
I did not know that there were 2 cuts. I think I saw it in the theaters even. So
Right. Well, the theater cut would have been the cable cut, apparently.
Right.
But when they did it on VHS, apparently they cut parts of it out to make it shorter, which I don't understand why they would do. However, that was one of the scenes that they said only made it to the cable cut. But I remember seeing that, and I didn't have cable. So...
And maybe there were different versions of the VHS cut. Maybe one of them came out, and then later they did the regular version because people like, this is missing stuff. So
right. Did you know that in the water, like when they get to the ship, that the original? Well, first of all, there's a couple little cute facts about this, and I know this just because I watch all these shows with Spoo that have like all these like strange facts about movies. There, in the original script, there were monkeys that had escaped, or gorillas that had escaped from the zoo that would make their way in and out of the story. And then they got completely cut on the editing floor. And then there was a giant squid in the water when they go into the water at the pirate ship. There was a giant squid in the water that they were going to fight. And when they got to filming it and they got it to the editing room, they realized how bad it looked, so they just cut that scene out completely.
I did not know any of that.
So they have this giant squid, because back then everything was practical. They didn't have CGI, so they had this giant squid made for this movie, and they never used it.
That's sad. I would like to have seen a giant squid. That would have been fun.
It looked really good in pictures, but there are videos on YouTube that you can go look, and there's clips that they've gotten from it, and it looked terrible.
I'm sure,
screen. But it looks great in pictures.
Yeah, sometimes that's true. I mean, yeah,
it happens.
It does happen. We've got a couple more comments here from Mandy.
We love Mandy.
Yes, we do. Oh, what happened to it? There it goes. Well, I'm using a different laptop too, so.
I did hear that. I'm hoping it's true. I never get my hopes up when rumors start. But yes, I heard that Melissa Joan Hart, who actually owns the rights to Sabrina, that's why it's the Hart. It's her company that owns the rights. She bought them with her money that she made from Clarissa Explains It All when she was a teenager. And she is, what I heard, is going to be doing a reboot where she is a widowed mom and her daughter is coming into power. So
oh well, there you go.
Yeah. So
I just want to know if they're going to have the cat.
The cat Salem.
Salem.
Probably,
right.
Probably,
with the animatic cat, though. I mean,
probably in a little bit better form too. Let's face it, it was really in there. But both aunts have signed on to at least be part of it.
And I love that they had brought them in to the 3rd season
of Chili.
Yes, and they did that whole television show thing. That was classic. I just thought, and of course, it was all being run by Salem. That's
of course, because Salem is evil.
Yeah. And she also said she loves the Goonies. So we're right there with you, Mandy. We love the Goonies too. So let's go to your next one. Well, because this is like number 6. 7, 6, yeah. So all right.
So we're gonna go with one that just has one of the best endings of any teen movie ever. Like anytime you can fill a house with popcorn with a laser,
with a laser,
and that would be Real Geniuses. Real Genius.
Val Kilmer.
I mean, look at him. It's Val Kilmer at probably, I would say, his peak of comedy. Like this, he is so wonderfully funny in this movie.
He is.
And it's just a goofball movie. It is one, I had like in my way of narrowing down, I was like, okay, let's pick some college movies. And this is the one that made it from that college list of teen movies. But just completely out there kind of movie. It's a movie that wouldn't get made today. It just wouldn't. And if it did, it would be completely, totally different. but it's so good. It's
It
so
is.
funny. And
Yes.
like I said, anytime you end a movie with a house getting shot by a laser and being filled with popcorn.
A laser from space.
A
laser from space comes down and causes the popcorn to be
well, because the
microwaved.
professor hated popcorn. The
He
smell
hated
of popcorn. But no, I love this movie. I think it's one of those fun movies.
It is a fun movie.
It is kid friendly enough to watch it. Oh,
no, I don't know what's going on. I'm on a different laptop. I'm on a loaner laptop because mine had problems before we didn't have last week. For those that were wondering what happened, was I was having technical problems. My laptop's in the shop getting fixed. Hopefully it'll be back soon. But so if I hit something weird, you know what's going on. But yes, no, it's a great movie. It's a lot of fun. Val Kilmer's great in that movie. He kind of went, that was really where he left comedy, but he went on a high note and of course went on to do Top Gun, Batman, and other things.
Was it Top Secret that he did?
Top Secret, yes, which was before that. Like with the cow suit and that's Airplane with spies, which is just great.
Yes. I think my thing with Val Kilmer is that he has such a good comic sense and timing that is reflective in his early works and his early films that sometimes didn't get played up as much as they should in newer films, and he didn't get cast or didn't try out for like these comedy roles. I think that if he would have played more comedy roles, I think that he could have been a huge comedic star because he had that quickness about
he
it.
Did. So, I agree.
And this is just one of those witty and funny and weird, and I love the weird. I don't know if you guys can tell.
Well, I mean, we're here together because we both like the weird. So I mean, this is that's just where we're at. Well, let's talking about going weird. I'm going to go weird, but a very popular weird. This movie could have just been lambasted, and if made today, well, they sort of made it again today. It would be lambasted, but for me, it'll always be a most excellent movie.
Wonderful choice. It's on my long list.
Right, exactly. How can Bill and Ted's not be on the long list? Bill and Ted's is a great comedy. High school boys failing history class, having to make the greatest project ever. Right. And of course, you could present this in front of the whole school, and you get time travel.
What I loved about it is, one, it brings in time travel. It has nods to Doctor Who because the telephone booth, where it's the police box. And they go back into history and they bring these historic figures, these real historic figures. And I love that, but they're not exactly what you expect them to be. And because history is written by the victor. Everybody always has that.
Yes, it's true. Yeah.
And also, history likes to paint the victors in the most beautiful light. And it's not always the case. And so I just love that these are characters that are from history, and they have some of those qualities that you know about. So you see them and you're like, I know who that's supposed to be. But then they talk and you're like, wow, I didn't expect that to come out of their mouth.
All I can say is Socrates, like sand through the hourglass. So were the days of our lives.
Oh my gosh. And you gotta love Keanu Reeves. I always love Reeves. I like Bill and Ted's, and then he was in that movie Parenthood with Steve Martin. I feel like those are those times where he can jump. He's like Val Kilmer, and he is very good comedically.
Yes.
But he can jump to drama. But he, unlike Val, who really strayed away from comedy. He swings around once in a while and goes to
He
comedy
does.
and stuff like that too. They just did the reboot, and I really enjoyed the reboot. So.
I did too. Well, it's a continuation. It's not really a reboot.
Well, I mean, it's a reboot because now we have their daughters.
Right. And now if the daughters just completely take over, which I hope they do, that would be most excellent.
Most excellent.
But
just the language from this movie, like, talk about defining a generation.
Mm-hmm.
There are certain movies that will define the way teenagers speak and the way that we interact with our parents and all of that stuff when we're kids. And this was one of them. Valley Girl was another one of them from the 80s where the language just went like a very specific spot. A Valley Girl
right.
took off all over, and
as we talked about, right, exactly.
And this was the same way. This is the words that they used, most excellent and all of that stuff. That's not things that we said as much around here until that movie came out.
Right, exactly.
No, it's a good movie.
The strange things are afoot at the Circle K.
My favorite part though is death. Like,
yeah. He's not in until the second one.
I know, but I love death.
No, I'm with you. Well, and Abraham Lincoln giving the speech at the end of Excellent Adventure, 40 and 38 minutes ago.
What is it?
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's so funny. But yes, I think it's a great choice.
Well, just remember, be excellent to each other. And party on, dudes. All right. What else do you got for us?
Let's see here. We'll go with I told you earlier that I love John Cusack.
Yep.
And Say Anything almost made the list.
Yep.
But I decided to go with a different John Cusack movie that not everyone knows about.
And they should.
They should. It's so funny. And it's
honestly, this would be either my number one or number two, but I'm letting you have it. So I'm just telling you, yes.
It's Better Off Dead. Okay. Anytime you can make teenage suicide weirdly funny and
right,
dark, but at the same time, like, you understand that there's a depression. This was probably one of the first movies I ever watched where I understood that there's a mental illness.
Yeah.
That depression is something other people feel too. I know that sounds weird because it does make such light of it. It was one of those movies also that was made. It was a short film. I can't remember who picked it up. I can't remember. There was Henry Winkler, the Fonz.
Yes, the Fonz. That's right.
The Fonz saw this short film about this teenager who got so depressed when his girlfriend broke up with him that he wanted to kill himself. And Henry Winkler thought it was hilarious. And it wasn't meant to be hilarious, but he actually convinced the writers to come in and write. And the writer is also an animator. And that's why you have this great animation. Like kids from the 90s, that Lizzie McGuire kind of thing where they did with the...
It was done here first.
It was done here first.
Savage Steve Holland, by the way.
Right? Such a good movie. Such a good... And
very quotable.
Yes. And funny enough, but had some serious undertones to it.
It does.
Made it relevant. So.
All I can say is if I need to laugh, if I need a movie that's going to make me laugh, and I know I'm kind of in a funk and I just need a good laugh, this is my go-to. This is my movie, because it doesn't matter how many times I've heard the different lines and then I can quote them. I still laugh my butt off when, gee, Ricky, I'm sorry your mom blew up. That just cracks me up. All of those. $2. I want my $2.
Okay. have you heard like the story behind the Paperboy?
I don't know if I have. I know he was based off a real Paperboy.
Okay, but the actor who played him was playing him like a serial killer.
Yes. Well, yeah, you kind of picked that up. I mean, you even
Like,
get the music with him riding the bike. I mean, it's all there.
He was supposed to be this psychopath newspaper boy who was like, you could see him growing up to become a serial killer.
Yeah,
That's the direction that the kid was given, and that is how he plays it. And
perfectly.
When I learned that, I didn't know that for the longest time. And when I learned that, I went back and watched it because I have it on DVD, and I was like, "Oh my god, I see it so much."
Perfect. I mean, he plays that perfectly because that's really, I love that. Gee, Ricky, you kind of picked a bad time. I don't have a cent. I don't want a cent. I want my $2 plus tip. Well, I see my grandmother dropped acid and got her arm stuck in the microwave, and my brother, so it's not really a good time. I mean,
no.
it's just so funny.
Like, my $2.
It goes through the car wash on top of the car. I can't swim. I mean, I just laugh. And then, of course, the neighbor boy who sniffed, who went on to do head of the class. And but my gosh, just in the whole tentacles. You mean tentacles?
I can't.
Right.
It's such okay. And here's the thing. This is the sad thing. I've mentioned this movie to people before, and do you know I actually have friends who are close to my age who've never seen this movie.
They need to see this movie. How are you been? They must not have had cable back in the 80s.
I didn't have cable.
I know you didn't, but people that did, it was on everywhere.
It was actually you could rent it in Branson. There's a little place called Mount Branson Video up on the hill, and they that's where we went to get all our movies, like Dirty Dancing, and this was one of them. When it came out, the lady who owned the shop, she knew we liked all these movies, me and my sister and my cousin Rachel, and she was like, I think you guys will like this one, and she sent it home with us. So
there you go. I remember I didn't know anything about it when it came in theaters. I didn't see it in the theater, but I went over to a friend's house who we were talking, whatever, and this movie comes on. He goes, "Oh, you're going to watch this." I'm like, okay. So I sit down, and I just never laughed so hard, and it just stayed there. Now, do you remember it wasn't a sequel, but it's in the same vein, also starring John Cusack, called One Crazy Summer.
Yes.
That basically...
Demi Moore.
Yes, with Demi Moore. Bobcat Goldthwait's in it. Very similar style. Yep. Now, from my understanding, and I've read several things on this because I love this movie so much, and for a long time, John Cusack hated Better Off Dead.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, he had not seen it until he was under contract to do the second movie with him, also being One Crazy Summer. And so before they started filming, they showed Better Off Dead just to kind of get the feel for the humor. And apparently he got up and was mad halfway through it, threw a big fit, said he hated him, would never work with him again. And that's why Savage Steve Holland only made 2 movies. Because John Cusack broke his heart and told him how horrible he was.
Which is such a waste.
It is.
Objective. John Cusack, I'm mad at you now. And I love you.
Now, John Cusack's come back, and actually I saw him in Kansas City a couple years ago at the comic convention up there. And he basically said, guys, I know I've said things in the past. Better Off Dead's a good movie. Okay? Stop. I'm settling this. I like Better Off Dead now. Right. So just like, okay.
I also think, here's the thing about it. It was such, it might not have been the best for his career in a way. I know that sounds weird because it was such an offbeat comedy.
Right.
Offbeat teen movie.
I don't know what hurt him though.
No, I don't think it hurt him at all. No. But what I'm saying is it might have been in that vein.
No, that's exactly where it was. He's like, You've ruined my career. And I'm like,
Right.
dude, you're a teen actor at this point.
I mean, yes, and if you look at John Cusack's like filmography from that time frame, he was weirdly not known as the best looking guy or anything like that, but he was in several movies. Adventures of Natty Gann, Sure Thing, like we said, 16 Candles, he's played a nerd, and it's just this with the polka dots.
With the polka dots, right?
It's a thing though, like he managed to go from that to, an adult actor and who has made several amazing movies. And that's the other thing is a lot of these actors that people love now, like Keanu Reeves, like you go back and it's Bill and Ted,
right.
Where it started. So
comedy is a good place to start, and comedy is the hardest acting. Everybody will say that if you give comic timing, you can do drama.
Right.
Tom Hanks went from comedy to drama.
You can't. It's hard to do reverse. If you are a dramatic, serious, like actor, a lot of the times you can't teach comedic timing.
You cannot.
You can teach dramatic acting.
Yeah.
And so I just think that as a young actor, he probably felt like this hurt him and
right, I'm sure.
And it's a very niche kind of audience. It's for people who like a little bit weird. True.
But it's so funny, guys. If you've not seen it, go see it. This one, like I said, this one would have been either one or two on top of my list because I love this movie so much. No, I wanted you to have it because I am also I'm like, okay, well, I can take those two off, and then I can add more into my list. Really, as far as things, because like I said, I had a bunch because I'm like, dang it. Narrowing it down didn't help. Need to do like 1985. Your top 10 comedies from 1980. Okay, I might be able to get that. All right. So that's a great pick. Love that movie. And like I said, I will quote that movie all day long and just chuckle to myself. I tried to show this to my kids, and they did not get it at all.
Dakota loved it.
Good for Dakota. Love you, Dakota. Thank you. My kids both just sit there like, can we go do something else? Like we're 20 minutes into the funniest movie ever, and you're killing me here.
You're like, don't do this to me.
Like, but the paper boy is throwing the paper and breaking the glass, and the dad runs out in the house coat, in his wife's house coat, trying to get the garage door. He gets it up, and it falls. That's hysterical. Come on. And then the mom for Christmas gives them frozen dinners. And then the aardvark. Everybody will be wearing it.
It's like it takes that like National Lampoonish kind of comedy.
Yes.
But takes it in a more focused on the kid.
Yes.
The parent.
Yes.
And also on the kid's life being like over. I love the skiing scenes too.
Yes.
Like he's like all, and it's oh my God, it's so funny. You guys really have to see it if you haven't.
And then the opening scene where he's totally obsessed with the girlfriend. So for those that don't know, he decides to commit suicide after his girlfriend breaks up with him. But he's so obsessed, like he walks into his closet and every hanger has her face on it.
I know.
You're like, what?
It is not okay. That's what I said. It is a mental illness movie. Like it really is. Mm-hmm. It is a showing of a mental illness in a teenager, but in a funny way. But at the same time, as a kid who suffered from some depression or something like that, you see it and you're like, oh, I'm not the only one.
Right.
Because we didn't tackle I don't think people who are of younger generations understand that they didn't tackle things like this except for in like TV movies or those after school specials.
Right. I was gonna say after school special.
After school specials, but they didn't talk about it in a way that made you feel normal. After school specials were very preachy in a way that made you feel like there's still something wrong with you, but it's okay.
Don't play D&D, kids.
Right. This one made you feel like, oh my gosh, you know what? It's okay that I'm not normal, that I have these thoughts. And
they're not as wild and crazy as his, so maybe...
No. Yeah, so you're like, somebody wrote this. I'm just...
Well, and the writer-director said it goes from his relationship where a girlfriend broke up with him, and he basically went into a huge depression.
Right.
So it was based off of his experience. Of course, now it's amplified and made more crazy.
Right. Well, you have to.
Well, and of course, one last scene before we drop this one, because I love it so much, is where he's standing over. He's decided to commit suicide again after several missed attempts. He's on the bridge, standing there, looking over into traffic, and his buddy comes up to him and is trying to talk him off of it. And at the end, slaps him on the back. It's okay, but it slaps him on the back, and he knocks him off, and he falls into a trash truck.
It's such a beautiful
and then he's looking up at the trash truck, and these two black utility polemen are up on the things working, and they look. One of them looks at the other and goes, "Perfectly ashamed when people throwing away a perfectly good white boy like that." Just too funny. Like, oh my gosh.
Well, here's the thing. It was such a beautiful comedy trope. Like, you try to kill yourself and you can't. Like, that's literally this movie is. Like, you just just give up.
That's what the French girl says at the end also. You know, like, you keep trying to kill yourself, but you fail at that miserably.
So you're a failure at killing yourself. You might as well try doing something.
You might as well try living, right? Why don't we fix up your not your Corvette, your Camaro. Fix up your Camaro. Yeah. Anyway, all right, we'll leave that one because I could talk on that one for hours because I love that movie. All right, we'll go with one of mine here. All right, so talking about teen movies and that sometimes they're not all, especially in the 80s, they weren't always kid friendly.
Yeah,
Some of them were not at all. And there was a whole genre that came on teen movies based around sex and everything else. This is one of the ones that helped start that. Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Whoa, dude. New shirt, new shoes, no dice.
Like, serious stoner movie. Like,
totally. But not all the people, just Spagoli. No. Spagoli's a stoner.
But it showed, it showed a high school with like different levels of people.
It did.
My favorite on my list does that, but in a microscopic way. But this showed it in a broader sense of what high school was really like. You didn't have just like the jocks and the nerds, which is what you had in the 50s and 60s movies, or the surfers and the bikers, or the jocks and the nerds. You had like two opposing groups. This showed a wide range of groups, and that they could be friends, and they could be, like it was way more of a environment,
right,
than it was just two opposing things. So,
well, and even the teachers who were a little bit on the crazy side sometimes.
Well, I mean, can you imagine? Like, let's face it, we all know teachers that
we do,
and they have to go home and they have to be like, they have to release some things, and this is just showing it at school. This movie is not like one of my favorites. It didn't even make my long list, but I appreciate it for what it is.
Well, and so I love the scene where she's sitting at the table with her friend talking, and she goes, "Look, someone's dressed like Pat Benatar." And her friend goes, because this is so 80s, and her friend goes, "We've got 3 of them dressed in different periods for Pat Benatar." In the 80s, we often dressed like our music and celebrity stars. If they had a trend, I mean, Madonna started a whole trend.
Material Girl, Madonna's Material Girl with the lace gloves and this is before the pointy bra Madonna. This is like
right.
But even before that, who's that girl? Madonna with like the short blonde curly hair and like the Marilyn Monroe-ish but updated with tutus and stuff. Cyndi Lauper had that.
Cyndi Lauper, right. So there was a lot of that going on. So you see the styles, you see they're hanging out at the mall. You do have the different groups that are intermingling there. That the kids that they're smart but they're not popular. You've got the guy who's selling the tickets to different events and making money by scalping. You've got the older brother who's working at the burger place and he thinks he's on top of the world. Judd Nelson.
I love Judd Nelson and anything.
So and he's great in that. And so you have that whole drama and the whole idea of, well, I'm going to break up with my girlfriend and play the field. But then when she breaks up with him first, it destroys him. And I'm like, okay, I've been there. I've seen that happen. So
because it's a very true to teenage life.
It is.
Like, not many people meet and fall in love with somebody in high school and then grow up and marry them. And, like, that doesn't usually happen. It does happen. I know people who've done that.
Yeah.
High school is that time in your life where people accept the fact that you might have a different girlfriend or boyfriend every, like, couple months. It's like, it's not, you're like, I dated this person in high school. I dated this person in high school, And it's not just allowed, but it should be that way for you to find the right person and everything. And you should have fun. This is like one of the first times that they talked about like the disappointment of you wanting to break up with somebody, but they break up with you first.
Right.
Like, how crushing that is. It's not that you want to be with them, it's that you wanted to be the one that ended it.
Right. And you want them to still want you.
Yes.
Because you may want to come back to them.
Well, and that's because in high school you can.
Right.
Like in high school also, how many times did your friends break up with their girlfriends or boyfriends and then like 2 weeks later they got back together?
Yep, exactly.
They dated somebody in between and then they got back together and you're like, how does that work?
And of course, this movie had has a discussion about abortion, which was something that wasn't talked a lot about. And of course, it also has the huge '80s trope of any sort of teen drama that out there with nudity. We lots and lots of nudity in this one, including the famous pool scene with Phoebe Cates. So. But yeah, this movie, when I think teen dramas, teen movies of the 80s, I can't help but put this one on my list. And
it's on the list. I mean, it's not my favorite of it.
No, right.
I think also when it came out, I was a little younger. Like
you were, right.
A little younger. And it was not one that I was allowed to watch until I was.
As you should not be.
And so I was an older teenager when I watched it. And then some of the things were a little dated at that, which is like even now, and not that it's bad, but when you're an older teenager, you don't want to watch something on. It's like and that's I think that's where I was.
Sure.
Now as an adult, I can go back and I understand that what it brings to the table and the discussions and the parts of it that are important. Like there were important things that happened.
Right.
So
well, and I saw it, and of course, being a little older than you. I saw it a little too young also, but that was because my parents' friends decided that this would be a good movie to watch on cable and let Larry stay up and watch this. And all I can say is Phoebe Cates. I was 13 and I'm like, yeah, baby. But it was really, the worst part of it was I was sitting next to my mother. It was trying to cover my face, but I'm like, I'm watching Phoebe Cates here. We're not doing that. Anyway, so, teen boys and their hormones,
Oh, it's a thing. Teen boys. Just boys.
I know plenty of girls with plenty of hormones, too, going on, so.
Yes, we do. It's fine. We just don't discuss it as much as you guys do.
That's probably true.
We discuss it. We don't discuss it in a way that you guys do. It's
I've been in plenty of all-girl groups except for me because I have a tendency to hang out with girls. Oh my gosh, more than guys. Guys may make a rude joke or kind of nudge you. I've been like, okay, all right. When we go into a discussion about naming certain devices for the bedroom, and I've been through those discussions, and I'm just sitting here fascinated, and I'm like, okay, so I can say it happens. It's done in a different way. We wear it more on our sleeve.
Well, I wouldn't say that's where you wear it. We'll leave it at that and be kid friendly.
Thinking with the wrong head. There you go.
Oh, okay.
All right. So Danny says hi to us.
Hi, Danny.
Glad you're here with us, Danny. Thank you. So we'll move on from the inappropriate movie on the list
to another inappropriate movie.
All right. Which one are we gonna go with?
So let's go with Julia Roberts in Mystic Pizza.
Yes.
So this movie it's a little older. It's not quite teenage, although Kat is
right.
She's going off to college. But I loved this movie because it showed different classes, like people, and it showed. I grew up in a tourist town. I grew up in Branson, Missouri, which is a tourist town, and they are from a tourist town as well. And it talks about, like people who come to the town and they think that this is their town, and then the people who are there all the time serving them, and
right.
It's a coming of age story for all three of the girls. They all learn something. It's not inappropriate for like a mid to older teen,
right?
But there are some hard questions that are asked, and especially from the youngest one, who becomes a babysitter to somebody, and then there is almost an affair with the married dad. Doesn't quite go to full affair, but it is implied that it is something that almost happens. Like, it's not even
right.
It is something that almost happens.
Right.
And so it tackles a lot of things. It tackles the fear of growing up. And
I'm still afraid of that.
I know, right? And I think that's where it really hits home, is this fear of growing up. All of them, except for the youngest, she wants to grow up too fast. She's still 18. So she wants to grow up. And the other two are like, we're there. It's not that much fun. And they don't really want to grow up. There's one that's getting married. It's just such a good balance of comedy and drama and friendship, but not in a down your throat kind of way. You know, very much realistic, where you fight with each other, where you make up with each other, where you're angry with each other, but you still have each other's back. And it's just a good, like, girl friendship movie. And you don't have a lot of those, or you didn't have a lot of those.
Not.
This is still a time in film where there wasn't a lot of movies that were like very girl driven.
Right.
That's why there's such a big deal with movies like this, or movies that are like Still Magnolias, for instance, or Thelma and Louise. Those are very important movies for women in film. And this one doesn't get put on that list, but I actually think it should be.
Right.
Because it's young women in film, and these women grew up to be stars. But this film is very important because it shows, it's like your Goonies or your Stand By Me or your, these boy-driven shows, except with girls, and I think it's really important to
I completely agree. Completely agree. Yeah, I was glad to see it on the list. And Julia Roberts does a great job in here. You can see that she's a budding star at this point.
Oh, yes.
So most definitely. Mandy has this to say. We'll just leave it at that.
It's so wonderful, isn't it? I love it. His face turns so red. It's beautiful.
Well, and people that know me, I don't get embarrassed easily. And really, it's funny because my wife is very, old school, quiet, grew up Catholic. You don't talk about things. And she tries to break out of that some. But me, I'm just blunt and in it most of the time. All right, you want to talk about this? Let's talk about this. And,
yes.
But that's just my style because why?
It's words.
It is. Well, and people need to know things, and discussions need to happen, especially with kids. So,
yeah.
All right, we'll move along.
Yours.
Move along. Let's see. What do we have next? Oh, yes. Okay. So, it is the getting close to the Halloween time. So, I wanted to throw in a teen movie that embeds some of that. And of course, we've talked about this movie several different times, but it is Little Lost Boys.
I almost made my list. It's on my long list. I love it.
I know, this is a great movie. Teen vampires. I mean, really, this is you got the Coreys in here. You've got you got Kiefer Sutherland is amazing in this.
Burt's.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously.
Right.
Such a good movie. It's one of those movies that, as a kid, kind of scared me, but didn't scare me, but kind of scared.
Right.
Like,
Yes.
Going from that, kind of. Oh no, it's not scary at all. Oh yeah,
It rides that line. It adds enough comedy in there to help some of that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the brothers, I mean, seriously, the Frog Brothers.
The Frog Brothers.
One, the fact that they're into comic books, I love.
Yes, me too.
The fact that they show them, like, their parents own the comic book store, but they're the ones running it because they're the ones passionate about it, kind of thing, and that they're also showing horror comics, which is something that I don't know. I think this might be how I got introduced to comics that with a horror theme, because I didn't realize that there were horror comics. I don't and I love that because it introduced me to a bigger world within a bigger world, if that makes sense. And
no, perfectly.
It just is such a coming of age, but in a weird way. It's a family story more than anything.
Right.
And it's just one of those movies that I love. I will watch it over and over again. So,
well, and wondering if you're going to have to stab your brother in the heart with a wooden stake because he's becoming a vampire.
Yes.
And then you've got the railroad track scene, which is just amazing.
The cave. I love
the cave. Yes.
Really, really wanted to live there. It's so cool looking. Very, very cool looking.
It is cool looking.
I really wanted to live there.
So this is another one of those movies and everything that's on my list that if I see it's on, I'll stop and watch it. I own a copy of it. I'll watch this. Sometime in October, this will go in, and I will sit down and watch the whole thing again and go, man, this is a good movie. I so much love this movie.
Professor, I have an idea of stuff to do, and I'll talk to you about it after.
All right, let's do that because we do have October coming up.
Yeah,
next week. Yes, starts Friday.
October 1st.
So
the reporter in me knows all the dates.
Well, I knew it was coming up. I think I knew it was Friday. So all right, so that's mine. Let's go on to your next one here.
So speaking of weird, stuff and that I like weird stuff. This one is probably the weirdest on my list. I am shocked that it got past my parents, but I don't think they actually watched it before they gave it to me. And it also like talks about suicide, but in a dark way that's not actually suicide. And that is Heathers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ryder,
such a good movie.
Right? Winona Ryder was one of my favorite actresses of the time. I loved Beetlejuice. I loved her Luca. Like I loved her so much. And this movie was when I was like, she has acting chops.
Yes.
She's not just, she's not just a kid actor. Like she really delved into this layer of stuff. And Christian Slater, it was just a very dark comedy.
It is.
And like made you think about things and violence in schools and stuff. And this is before we had Columbine, which changed the way we looked at violence in schools completely.
Right.
This is before that. So this, I think, though, gave parents, if parents watched it, an insight into the fact that kids who were bullied could be suicidal.
Right.
That there were harshness and hurtfulness, but it wasn't just like an adolescent's harshness and hurtfulness. It is a psychologically damaging thing a lot of times to go through high school.
Amen to that.
And movies like this weren't made. Like you had these feel good movies where like the jock falls in love with the nerdy girl, or the cheerleader falls in love with the nerdy boy. That doesn't really typically happen. And this movie really showcased that even within cliques, it's like Mean Girls before Mean Girls, but with if they introduce like a dark psychopath into Mean Girls is what you get with this movie. It's really amazing it holds up, which a lot of movies don't, and this one holds up. So if you guys have never seen Heathers, do not watch the remake one that they did.
They made a remake of it? Why would you need to make a remake of it? I don't understand.
I don't either. This is
remake bad movies. Don't remake good movies. Remake bad movies, make them good. Don't go to a good movie and remake it. It's not needed.
This is a cult classic for a reason because it has such dark humor.
It is.
So.
Well, yeah. I mean, when you've got a group talking about how maybe they should kill off somebody else in the group, and there's
not just that, but you actually had murders.
You do.
Just talk.
No, right.
It is, and there's like a plot to blow up the school. And like I said,
then we all have that fantasy. I mean.
Well, and that's the thing. Well, the thing is I think that it tackles, the kids who are loners or outcasts, like that. It tackles the idea of suicide, but it also tackles the idea of anger in a way that hadn't been tackled before. And like I said, this was not discussions that we had before, like Columbine happened. Even in schools, these were not discussions that we had. If you were bullied in school in the 80s, it was just how it was. And I had this conversation with somebody the other day, and I was like, everyone went through something in high school.
Right.
Even the kids that were the cool kids, the cheerleaders, the jocks, they all at some point in their life felt like an outcast. And a lot of them did that in high school, even when they were part of a clique. And this shows that. This is Winona is part of the Heathers clique, but she is the lowest member of the clique. And she feels like an outcast within her own clique. Yes, she's one of the popular girls, but she's not a Heather. She's a Vanessa. Or Veronica. She's a Veronica, not a Heather. So she's within that group, but it's still an outcast. And I think this movie really showcased that everybody has moments of feeling like an outcast. And it's hard to realize that, though. like when you're in that, like when you're in school and everyone's bullying you and everything, to go, you know what, they're probably getting bullied, or they're this, or there's that. You don't grasp the concept that they're reacting to you in a way that somebody else has reacted to them.
Right.
And this movie really opened my eyes up to that. And after watching this movie, which a lot of people would say, oh, well, it promotes violence and stuff, but I actually took away from it the complete opposite, in the fact that you have to understand that not everyone's life is exactly it is, just by looking in. So
Yes, no, you're exactly right. The that this movie does a great job. Now, did you kind of connected and off the subject? Do you remember this song, "The Homecoming Queen's Got a Gun"?
yes.
So very funny song, meant to be a comedy, but that you said before Columbine. After Columbine, that song could never be made.
No.
But that was kind of a. But it also addressed this issue that you just don't know what people are going through, and people can go really dark sometimes. Even the homecoming queen can go crazy sometimes, which was kind of the point of the song, along with it being a funny, humorous song. But yeah, that Heathers does even a better job of showing
right.
That, so,
and the thing is like, when I say this movie, like this was before Columbine, there are certain events in our history that changed the way we perceive things. Columbine changed the way we perceive kids being bullied at school.
Right.
And how that affects them, and then what they could do if you have a kid who has violent tendencies or psychotic tendencies or whatever, whichever one it is, that they could harm people. And Columbine was that moment in American history where, like, oh crap.
Right.
9/11 is one of those times in history where it's like, we're not always safe. Pearl Harbor for our parents or grandparents, depending on how old you are, or great grandparents, depending on how old you are, who you're watching. Pearl Harbor was that moment for them. Those moments are so important, but at the same time, the movies that are and things that are made before those moments that address those issues, that they address those issues pre-moment, and that's kind of important.
Right. And people that grew up after Columbine don't really get the whole idea that not only were you bullied, the teachers actually not only knew about it, but sometimes would add to the bullying if you didn't fess up to it right. And so basically you're told just to grow a spine and stand up to it and whatever else.
The teacher threatened me with a high heel to hit me, throw her high heel at me, because I was complaining about a boy who grabbed me inappropriately, and he was a football player, and she didn't like that I was complaining about a football player. And when you go to the principal and you talk about it, you don't talk about it. I am so proud of where we've come as a society. That my kids didn't have to worry about that so much. Like, they could go, if bullying was taken so seriously after it was not beforehand. And this movie
not at all.
This movie really did address this before the major issue that made the whole world address it. And art should make you think, and this is a art dark comedy. It really
Right. I agree completely. That's a great selection. Heathers definitely belongs on the list because it's an amazing movie. So
it's a good movie.
Yes, it is. So we're gonna go from something kind of dark. And we went Lost Boys, which is a pretty dark movie. Then we went to Heathers, which is a different type of darkness. Now we're gonna go to something not quite as dark, but also dealing with bullies. I mean, sort of depends on who you think is the bully. We're gonna talk about the Karate Kid, though.
So it's on my list. There it is. On my extended list. It was on my extended list.
I love this movie, by the way. But I've always been into martial arts since the first time I saw any sort of martial arts as a little kid. And so I've always been into black belt theater. I took martial art lessons in high school for a while. love martial arts, love all the movies. So this movie really hit it for me because I'm like, oh my gosh, the whole idea that you've got this kid who's new, he's not being the popular kids are bullying him, and then he learns martial arts. And
Right.
yes, I know Daniel did some stupid things too.
Oh,
I understand.
No, the thing is like, and this is one of those movies that's perfect for high school because it shows that it's all about perspective. And
It is.
Cobra Kai has, like, if you guys haven't seen Cobra Kai, season 4 is coming out
You need
at
to
the
see
end
it.
of this year, and you need to catch up because it's amazing, especially if you love the Karate Kid. But it's about perspective because the first time I watched it, I was all about Daniel and, oh my gosh, he's got. And then the second time I watched it, maybe not second, maybe the third or fourth, I was starting to think Daniel's a little bit of a jerk.
Sometimes.
Like, and
he does some things to instigate things. Now,
yes,
if you stand a foot taller than your opponent and you're going to bring all your friends to kick their ass.
Oh no, I agree. Like, no, I completely agree. But at the same time, you look at it and you're just like that whole, it's perspective, because if you watch it through the eyes of Johnny versus Daniel, then it's a totally different movie.
Oh, it is. It is. Well, and I did an article on this on Geeky KOOL some time ago about how Daniel really still is the hero of this movie. Johnny really is the bad guy. Now, there are things that Daniel does that's stupid that instigates things further, but when you break it down, Johnny's still the bad guy in it. But yes, there's definitely a perspective to it.
And here's the thing. I disagreed with your thing because I don't think any of the children in this movie are the bad guys. I think the adults is the bad guy.
Well, no, and I agree with you there. Yes.
I think that this movie shows so much how a good teacher can enhance somebody's life and how a bad teacher can destroy somebody's life, and how it is so important to follow your own instinct. Johnny and his friends, for the most part, weren't bad kids. They just had bad instructions in life, and that's who they followed.
And all I can say is, if you
got Mr. Miyagi, I mean, you can't beat Mr. Miyagi. He's a good teacher.
Right. Well, that's true. But Johnny's first introduction really is him coming to the beach, storming in because his ex-girlfriend is talking to another boy. And he comes in and she's telling him, no, 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 no. And all he wants to do is continue to be in her face. And let's just go talk about this. Dude, no means no. Leave her alone.
I agree with that.
So, and of course, the 80s was a little less strict on some of those things. But he really is kind of a jerk and everything else. And a lot of it has to do with how he's brought up. Cobra Kai does a perfect job of making Johnny a much more compelling character. And I love Cobra Kai. I was talking about Cobra Kai the first 2 seasons when it was on YouTube and nobody else was watching it. I'm like, you people need to watch this.
Because I didn't pay for YouTube's.
I got it for free.
You did. I didn't.
No, I got it for a month for free. They're just like, sign up for a month for free. I'm like, I'm going to watch Cobra Kai.
I never got that offer.
It was out there. They told everybody you can have it for a month for free. Try it out. And of course, then it went away, and then they sold it to Netflix. But this is a great series, guys. If you've not seen it, see that. But The Karate Kid is just an amazing movie.
It is, and it's such a good tale of making family when you don't have family.
Right. That's true.
But he didn't really have like a lot of family, and they just moved and that sort of thing. And Mr. Miyagi became family. He
did. He became family. You have the interactions with the teens at different levels. You've got what's her name being his girlfriend,
Allie.
And yes, Allie. Yes, and then you've got. I mean, so it's just an interesting. And of course, the fight at the end is really cool. How that all goes down, sweep the leg, and all that. Some of the greatest, little fights, teen against teen sort of thing in the 80s. So, all right. So we're down to that was my number 3. So yeah, we're down to our final 2. So
Okay. So my final 2 flip, like I said, depending on what kind of mood I'm in. So take this with a grain of salt. But my number 2 is,
for the moment, for today,
is The Outsiders.
Superstar cast here.
Oh my God. If you just look at that cast right there, you're just going to see so many superstars. And not only superstars, but people who have shown huge amounts of range.
Right.
You have Patrick Swayze, you have Tom Cruise, Emilio Estevez, Rob Lowe, you have Ralph Macchio, C. Thomas Howell. So many. I know I'm missing one. Who did I not say? Matt. I didn't say.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But you have this cast. And the thing is, this is a movie that is set in the 60s. It's set in the 60s, and it is based on the class war that was going on in the 60s with, in this movie it's called, the socialists, which are the preppies, and the greasers, who were really called the greaser, like they were the outsiders,
right.
Greasers, because they put grease in their hair. The poor kids, the kids from across the railroad tracks, that sort of
thing. Not in the 60s, but
right. But it's a strong class war. However, it's also such an amazing tale of that you're more than where you come from.
Right.
It also talks about child abuse, being afraid of going home, about not having parents, like being orphaned, and then in family, about working really hard to try to make something better with your life.
Right.
You have all of these things, and then you also have this underlying tension between two social classes in a town, and you have a bully who's not just a bully but a psychopath bully.
Right.
And then his friends who just follow blindly behind him because he's the most popular and the best looking or whatever it is, that sort of thing. And it's very group, mob mentality.
Yep.
On both sides.
Right.
And I think even though Ralph Macchio is known for The Karate Kid more than any other movie that he's ever made, I think this one is one that truly showed his acting chops better than any movie he's ever made.
Agreed.
He played Johnny in this one, and if you guys don't know about The Outsiders, it really is like a coming of age story, but in the most tragic way. And Johnny gives his life to save a bunch of kids. This movie means so much to me, and this book means so much to me, that when my kids were younger, when they turned 13, I had a list of books that they had to read as teenagers. They didn't have a choice. There are books that are super important to who you need to become as an adult, that you have to read them as teenagers. And this is one of them. And it became one of Dakota's favorite books. It was his first tattoo, had meaning behind this. And it's not Stay Gold, because everybody always gets Stay Gold Johnny, Stay Gold, Stay Golden, whatever. Pony, Stay Gold Pony. But Johnny writes a letter at the end of it after, when he's dying. And he's like, tell Dally it was worth it.
Right.
So my kid's first tattoo is across his arm, and it says it was worth it.
So talking about the book, Mandy's got a couple comments here for us.
Yes. I agree with that, Mandy. That's true. So she wrote the book when she started it when she was 15. It's one of those books that's very much like the To Kill a Mockingbird.
Right.
Through various degrees of change and stuff, many edits and everything, but it's a tale that's just so important.
It is.
And if you read the book when you were in 6th grade or 7th grade, I think Dakota had to read it in 7th grade. I think I had to read it in 7th grade. If you read the book around that time, go back as an adult and read it, because you're going to pick up so much more on it.
Right.
But
yeah, I was just trying to read to get through things at that point. I'm like, man,
Right.
I just got to get some. I need to be able to answer a few questions, and then
Yeah.
I need to. I don't care.
Yeah, and
because-
it's one of those books that's not very thick, so it's not like it's not going to take you months to read it. Like a few days, maybe a week. That's pretty much it. But the movie itself was so well acted.
Yes, it was.
It didn't go straight true to the book, but it's really close for back then. When you had books being translated into movies, a lot of the times they cut things. So many times they cut things. In this one, you still get those important parts, and so it's a good movie. And the cast, you can't beat the cast. It's kind of like Mystic Pizza with the girl cast. This is like that with the guy cast. There are 2 girls in it.
There are. Mandy is this to say, by the way. Yes, there is now, and I would have loved Audible back in the day. And I'm actually listening to Frankenstein right now, so which is completely different than the movie.
Oh no!
I mean,
yeah, no,
I'm like, oh my! I had no idea. I mean, Dracula's different than the movie,
Yeah.
even though the Bram Stoker's Dracula movie from the '90s was actually pretty accurate.
Right.
But the Frankenstein, I'm like, what in the world? And I'm like, I'm real excited to keep going. But no, I'm with you, Mandy. It's very helpful for me being dyslexic to do stuff like that. As a kid, that was my big struggle. I know how to deal with my dyslexia now. I didn't then. And reading was just a chore for me. Now, if it was a comic book or something I really was into, I could read all day long. But if it was something I'm being told I have to read,
well,
then I couldn't,
comics.
but-
The good thing with comics is you have pictures to go along.
yeah,
with it.
you do.
Like, if you're having issues with the words, you can kind of like
Right, you can
what
reference
the-
there.
Yeah, you can
Exactly.
reference this.
Well, and yeah, it's not as much like when you're reading, especially if it's small print and it's thick and chapters are forever long, and you're trying to read and understand, but you're trying to get through it, and words are moving. It's just anyway. But and nowadays they found that if you want to teach a kid that's having trouble with reading, give them a comic book. Amazing. My teachers took my comic books when I bring them to school.
Right?
So. And now it's being used as a tool to teach, which I think is fantastic. So, all right. So that's a great pick. I saw that, and I didn't know that had as much meaning as it did too, which I'm glad it does. That it's a great movie. I have not read the book. We weren't required to read it. We read The Odyssey, and we read 1984. Of course, for me, I read 1984 in 1984 just to be fun. You would have been, like 5 at that point, but
no.
whatever, something like that. But yeah, that's a weird read by itself.
I was
too.
8.
You were okay. I'm sorry. Yes, 8's not close to 5 at all.
8 or 9. I mean, it's older than 5.
So we'll move on to my second to last one here. Now we've already talked a little about this director being so important in the 80s. So we're going to tap into John Hughes, and it won't be our last time, but we're going to tap into John Hughes because life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop to look around once in a while, you could miss it.
Here's the thing: you can't talk 80s teen movies without mentioning John Hughes. You can't. And Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I knew this was going to be on your list because we've talked about it before.
I love Ferris. Yes,
it didn't even make my list, even though it would have, except
right.
And I know you love Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
I do love Ferris.
What a great movie, and the cast was just perfectly cast for this.
Yes.
I could not imagine anyone other than Matthew Broderick playing.
Nobody.
Jennifer Grey playing his sister.
Yes.
Casey.
Yes.
Charlie Sheen playing the guy at the jail.
The stoner in the jail.
Seriously.
I've got
very
somebody you may want to
talented.
talk to that I think will help you. If you say Ferris Bueller, I'm going to cut you.
So good.
Do you know him?
The principal, of course, is just the perfect principal. Like, he's the perfect asshole principal. Like, to the point of, like, no return asshole.
Right.
Like,
Right. And I had one. I mean, I had one that was a combination of the principal from Ferris and the principal from your next movie. If you combine them together, that was who I had.
That's terrifying.
It was. Well, even to the point to where he didn't like that I wasn't going to be up with the rest of my class singing some Friends Are Friends Forever with my classmates who I was not thinking that about. And I don't like to sing because I sing terrible. And so he basically was like, well, you're not going to get a diploma if you don't do this. I'm like, I know that's not true. And I know I could go to the school board, but I'm so tired of your crap and I just want to be done with you. So I stood up. I said, fine, you can make me stand here, but you cannot make me sing. So I stood up front like this the whole time because I wanted to be Ferris.
Beautiful. Ferris Bueller, like, talk about the ultimate skip day.
Yes.
Talk about a movie that just teaches you to, like, completely take life and just make everything an important thing. Ferris Bueller taught a whole generation carpe diem. I mean, seriously.
Yes, right.
One of the movies that didn't make my list but made my longer list had carpe diem as like a big part of this movie. But this one showed it.
Right.
This one showed it. And so, yeah, it's such a good movie.
It is also a very quotable movie. So many great scenes. You have the interactions not only with him and Cameron and
Sloan.
Yes, Sloan. You've got the other kids in school and the interactions there. You've got his sister's interaction, which I think is just great. I mean,
the movie would not have been the same without having his sister.
Oh, that was, and the whole idea that see, most people want to fake a fever, but that might get you to the doctor, and that's what you want to do is lick your palm and.
I mean, he grew up to be a politician.
Yeah, yes.
Like, I'm just saying, Ferris Bueller became a senator somewhere.
That is probably true.
Cameron is, if Ferris is the carpe diem, Cameron is the can we just sit down and like not do this, like scared of everything. And it's just such a great, like, bad influence movie.
Right, exactly.
Teach us how to skip school. Okay.
So
Bueller, like the very beginning. That's
exactly. Ben Stein is the teacher right there. And he was just told just to start talking. He's like, just say something. So then he starts going the whole thing about politics and Reaganomics and anyone, and they're all looking at him. That's just perfect.
So funny.
And of course, it has this amazing Ferrari in this movie that is just incredible. That I would love to drive.
You love cars. I love that they think that they could put it in reverse and take the mileage off. I was watching that. I was like, that's not gonna work.
Well, and it used to work for some cars. So some older cars back in the 50s and early 60s. Not going to work with a Ferrari. Oops. So you did have some of that, but yeah, this movie is so fun. I have a great time. Now, Mandy wants to be a little controversial here. She hates Ferris Bueller.
Mandy hates.
Well, Mandy, we love you anyway. And just know that's the great thing about Geeky Kool is we're okay with you disagreeing with us. That's okay. But I love, and she says she's a bit of Cameron. So
I mean, and to be fair, without Cameron, Ferris would have been way off the rails.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
What?
Ferris doesn't exist.
Oh.
There is that theory that it's just in Cameron's head, but
Drew just got home and he literally just said Ferris doesn't exist.
all I can say is save Ferris. Save Ferris. I want to save. That's what I want for Christmas is a save Ferris shirt. I'm already decided. So
I will get you one.
all right.
That'll be cool.
And I'll wear it. Save Ferris. And then we'll just have Spoo going, Ferris doesn't exist. We're going to save him. Ferris doesn't exist. So, all right. So that's my number 2 with Ferris. There he is.
You would say Ferris doesn't exist.
Figment of Cameron's imagination.
The band Save Ferris is still around. You could probably get one of their shirts.
I would love that.
I love that band.
So since you've got him here, go back to you two together for just a moment. Why don't you tell us your number 1? Because I think this is fitting here.
So my number 1 80s teen movie is his number 1 movie of all time, which is The Breakfast Club.
And this is also important for a certain date coming up next year.
Yes, it is. We on April 23rd, we're doing at OzCon a Breakfast Club themed wedding.
That's amazing.
Get married. I'm gonna have red hair, by the way.
Yes.
I won't have any hair.
He's gonna be Bender, and I'm gonna be Claire.
All right.
So, but yes, Breakfast Club is number 1 on my list. You can't talk about 80s teen movies without The Breakfast Club
Agreed.
on your lips. You just can't. It is quintessential teen movie of all time. I think it shows, like I talked about earlier, about some of the other movies showing different people, different perspectives. We had never seen it in such a microscopic way.
Right. That's true.
This one had like, you had every cliche of a clique, but within a thing.
It's like it's the most honest movie ever. Like pegging what it's really like to be a teenager and the troubles that entails with like your clique at school, your family at home. It doesn't pull punches, and like even behind the scenes, like the way that it was made is a fun story in and of itself. Like Judd Nelson actually attended a high school. He was 21 at the time, but attended a high school, pretended to be a teenager for like 3 weeks before the movie. Made friends, made friends because he would buy them beer. But
oh yeah, that'll do it.
And
so it's like 21 Jump Street.
Yeah,
yes,
pretty much.
So, but it's just because it shows you. Again, I love those movies that show you that people are going through different things and you're not sure.
Right.
This one shows you pretty much all of the different kinds of people that you would see in high school, but to the extremes.
Right.
Like, you have the jock who is just pure jock whose parents are focused on that. You have the princess who's like rich and spoiled, but her family is like not, they're dysfunctional. You have, the crazy loner, weird, artistic girl who's just sitting there, Ali Sheedy's character, Allison. You have the nerdy guy who, like, his parents are like grades, and he has so much pressure on himself just to get good grades.
Right.
And then you have the stoner criminal bad boy.
Right.
That parents and teachers and principals just completely disliked because they were so, rude and disrespectful and everything. But you get to see what possibly can make them all be what they are.
Right.
Can understand. And I love the line when they're all sitting in the circle and they're like, do you think that you become your parents? Like, are we going to become our parents kind of thing?
Right.
And Ali Sheedy's like, you can't help it. When you get older, your heart dies. Like, that's such a it was such a like important message that even though you might be rich or you might be the poorest kid, like you don't know what your parents are putting you through and everything. And it just dissects each of their characters to a point that's really amazing that you can see in such a short movie.
Right.
That you get to glimpse into their lives without any other cast members except for the principal and the janitor. And
Right.
the janitor is really there, let's just face it, he's really there more to like just push the principal forward in his story. Even though I love his, you know, like when he comes in and he talks about the clock being fast and stuff like that, it's a fun thing. And I know what's in your lockers and everything, but Shmoo can quote word for word of everything in that movie.
I listen to your conversations. I look through your lockers. I am the eyes and ears of this institution, my friends.
There you go.
But it's just.
Well, I just want to know what the joke, how the joke ended.
Right?
Before he fell through.
I know. I was like crawling through the ceiling. It's also like a love story, but at the same time, you know, that's not the main focus of it. It's actually two love stories, but that's not the main focus of it. And I love that the brain, the nerd, Brian, he actually gets to be the voice of all of them. And I know that they're doing it, you know, like the whole point is like, oh, well, they don't want to do their work. But I think it was very important that they allowed him to be the voice of it in a weird way. Because one, he's the youngest in the group, and two, he is probably the one who has the hardest time making friends.
Right.
Because he just is.
Right.
What?
Right.
Allison, she doesn't even have friends.
Allison was like, Allison would be the hardest to make friends. Allison's just like, people don't talk to me, I don't talk to them. Like, she didn't even talk for the first, 20 minutes of the movie.
Right.
But,
sits down, combs the flakes out of her hair, puts the...
By the way, her food is disgusting.
No, it's not. I've had it. It's actually good.
So, we were watching it, and I'm like, but you didn't know it was butter.
No, I didn't. I always thought it was
He
mayonnaise.
thought it was mayonnaise on a sandwich. It's butter. It's bread, butter, Pixie Stick, and Captain Crunch cereal. It's like sugar, but
and butter and sugar. There you go.
Put butter on
well, and the idea that as they're sitting there talking, and they're like, "Well, what happens on Monday?"
Right.
You know, we become friends now. Are we going to talk to each other? And then the realization of no, we're not going to acknowledge each other.
Well,
we can't cross those barriers in high school to do that. And
the thing is like, I think that they could have easily been like, oh yeah, we'll be friends, and made it like that. And I think each of them will. Like, I don't think I think Claire and Bender probably did end up dating. Like, I don't think they didn't date. I just think that it was not talked about. But and Allison and Andrew, I know, probably got together because of that. But I just think that Claire's answer was so perfect in that moment, where she was like, truthfully, you want the truth? Like, no. And then for her to explain it, like, the fact that it would be just so embarrassing. It's a very honest story.
It is. That is very honest. And that's what I liked about it, because they didn't sugarcoat it. It's like, no, we're really, I mean, we come from different worlds here, and we're here in a microcosm, and we can all be friends because we all know we all share a lot of the same things. It's just done in a different way. But out there, we've got to be the facades that we are at this point.
Right.
Probably my favorite thing about The Breakfast Club, like as a huge movie that is, John Hughes wrote that movie over the course of a weekend.
Right.
And somewhere out there, widow of John Hughes, if somehow you hear this message, please give us there is a 3-hour cut, director's
Wow.
cut of The Breakfast Club, and like nobody's ever seen it, but
Wow.
she still has it.
That would be incredible.
Yes.
Yeah.
It would.
Well, and yeah, I'm sure one of the streaming services would pay a bundle for that.
Oh yeah.
And and people would flock to that. So that would be a really good investment at this point. So yeah. All right. Well, that's a great pick for your number one.
What's your
my number one? So for my number one, we really have to kind of step back into the 80s. And then we have to step back into the 50s. And go a little bit back in time.
Okay. So I knew this was going to be on your list. So
You did.
I'm
You knew it was
like,
going to be on my list.
I knew it. So I was like, I'm not even putting it on my list. It's it and Ferris Bueller. I knew would be on your list, so I'm all good with that. Probably one of the best movies ever made.
Yes, I agree.
Like from a filmmaking standpoint, it is a perfect film.
Yes, I agree.
There's only like 2 movies that I can say that about just from a filmmaking standpoint, and that was being Back to the Future and Ghostbusters.
Yes.
Are perfect films, or nearly perfect films.
The closest they've come.
Closest that you can get, yeah.
I agree with that.
So just the fact that Michael J. Fox was wanted for this role and then didn't get it because he was on Family Ties.
Right.
And they actually had a different actor play it. And Eric Stoltz, I knew who it was. Did? Yeah, Eric Stoltz was Marty McFly first. And he just didn't.
There is still one shot of Eric Stoltz in the movie.
Yeah. But like the fact that Michael J. Fox wanted to do this so much that he convinced the studio Family Ties to let him do it. All of Michael J. Fox's things are filmed at night.
Right.
Even the daytime stuff is filmed at night because he had to film at night because he was working the days. And
the Family Ties, right.
It's nights and weekends, yeah. But it's just like crazy. And it's such a good movie. And it was just so much fun.
Right.
And my mom loved it and I loved it. So it was like one of those things because, she could go nostalgic on it.
Right.
But
right.
at the time, it bridged this gap in a weird way. So.
That's awesome. No, I love this movie. You get time travel, you get going back to your parents' generation. Oh my God. But you also, just the interaction between the characters, especially with Michael J. Fox and his father and his mother in there.
Christopher and Leah.
Christopher and Leah, right.
Oh, good. Leah Thompson is amazing.
Right, I agree. Leah Thompson, she was in a lot of movies in the 80s and she just knocked it out of the park. We talked about Howard the Duck the other day about her being in there, but yes. So yeah, Leah Thompson, perfect in this role. Even in the makeup playing the older mom. You can't even tell. You can't tell that. I'm like, what in the world? And when they go back in the past, you're like, did they get a different actress? Like, no, it's the same one.
It's so good because it was realistic. Because when you get older, you get these. I have them right here. The little jaws,
yeah,
like you do. I don't care, but you get that, and you get like this like worn down look, and I loved it because even when he comes back and they're like changed for the better, she still has that. It's just not quite as much.
Right, exactly. So
and who doesn't hate Biff? Like
exactly.
Like he's just the perfect villain who's not like super like you don't want to kill him, you just don't want to be around him, and you might want to
because he's a big jerk, right? He's the quintessential bully.
Oh yeah.
So and then and who doesn't cheer in the scene where he's chasing him in the car and Michael J. Fox takes the skateboard out of the scooter and then goes up into the manure and oh shit! It's literally, you're like, oh my God! You just cheer, you're like, yes.
I think like one of my favorite parts is the at the dance, the Johnny Be Good, like when he's going off. Like he's doing such a good job at first, and then he just starts going off.
Yeah, it's like Jimi Hendrix singing. And you're like,
they're just was like, they're liking it at first, and then they're like, what the heck?
He's like, that's your kids will love this.
Your kids will love this.
Well, and of course, you've got music from Huey Lewis in here, which Huey Lewis had to be convinced to do the music.
I know.
And he had already written, which song? Anyway, but he had to be convinced to do it. Once he did it, though, he loves it. And then, of course, he's playing the scene as the guy who's casting the bands. Like, I'm sorry, you're just too darn loud, which is just great because you've got Huey Lewis doing that about Power of Love. Well, that was a song. He had already written Power of Love and wasn't sure where he was going to use it. And then they like, oh, just let us use that. And then write another one also. I'm like, okay.
And I like that I love the mom when she's like, I don't like that Jennifer girl because,
yes,
girls like back in my day, we wouldn't have called a boy or, all that stuff. And then like you go back and she's like literally chasing him.
Right.
And like
looking at his underwear and it's like Calvin.
I know, full advancements. And she took off his pants.
Yes, right. She the one took off his pants. And then it's like
it's a little creepy though, I'm not gonna lie.
Have you never been necking before? I mean, it's all right. Like, Mom, yeah.
It's a little cringeworthy when you think about it that it's his mom.
Right.
Also, like the only part that I always thought this, I was like, so they're like, oh, that's a good name, Marty, and everything. And so you think, okay, that's how they got his name, right? But he's the third child.
Right. Yeah, right. They don't use it until later, right?
Right. And they just happen to use it on the child that looks just like, do they not think to like, if I was with Lorraine, if I was with Lorraine and she had this big crush on this guy, Calvin, who looked like Marty, and then Marty is born and Marty grows up to look exactly like him, I would be like, did Calvin come back? Did you?
Well, it had been a lot of years there. My memory is a little fuzzy on what people look like from yesterday. Nevertheless,
you kind of
30 years ago. I don't know.
Seriously, like it. Wouldn't you think to yourself, he doesn't really look like me, but he does look like that guy that she dated before me? I'm just saying.
They convinced us to get together. It wasn't like she was with him very long. She wasn't even really dating. She tried. Supposed to go to the. Oh, yes, she tried. Supposed to go to a dance, and then he ends up, taking her instead of Calvin or Marty or whoever. So
no, Marty takes her to the dance.
No, he takes her to it, but doesn't go in with her.
Yeah, no, because she wants to make out with him.
She wants to make out, right.
But you see,
what a dreamboat.
That's the only part I always thought about, like, and Biff knew Marty too back then as Calvin, and so all I.
But again, you're talking a matter of days.
I don't care. All I'm thinking is, you don't think Biff would be like, I don't think that boy is yours. I think that is that Calvin's.
Biff was too dumb to think anything about that. And I love Biff post coming back. I mean, and then of course you get the old Biff in 2, and then all that. But yeah, I loved worn down Biff that's waxing the car now. Biff. Well, I was just starting the second coat.
I know, just that one, but it really shows you that like the butterfly effect kind of
yes,
thing. That one little thing can change everything.
Right.
And to be honest, it is the reason we have the rules for time travel.
Right.
Not get involved with anyone.
Don't go talk to yourself. Don't
interfere with your parents.
Don't interfere. Definitely don't interfere with your parents.
And let's talk about Doc for a minute, because Doc is just amazing, right? So good.
And what's he known for before this? Taxi, where he plays the crazy driver. I forget his name on Taxi, but definitely not smart. And then you get him as Doc, but he's also crazy, but in a whole different way. So yeah.
He's very smart and very eccentric and everything.
Very eccentric.
I love that he has like he steals the stuff from like a
from the Iranians. It's from the Iranians. No, Libyans. It was Libyans. He steals it from the Libyans, and it's like they gave it to me to make a bomb, and I made this, and I gave them a crate full of pinball parts, and yeah.
It's so bad. It's so wonderful. I love it. So
Look. Yeah. This movie is just great. It's one of those. If it's on it, and my kids all actually really like all three of these movies.
We watched Back to the Future with Lex, and she really loved it. She was getting very anxious with him. Like, is he gonna make it?
Right. Is he gonna make time? Oh my gosh, what happens?
She was very like nervous about it and everything. It was cute. And that was just a couple. We were doing. Was it 1950s or 1960s? We were doing we were studying like, and we watched it so she could get an idea of the clothes and stuff.
Right. Well, and the music with Mr. Sandman and some of the other stuff, and of course, one of the best parts of the whole dance is where he goes in and he's calling his cousin.
Chuck
It's
Berry.
me, Barry.
Chuck, it's your cousin. Yeah. But you don't know this. Like, it's Chuck Berry.
You don't know his last name, right? You don't know his last name until it says Marvin Berry. You're like, oh, and he's playing Johnny B. Good, yeah.
Which is Chuck Berry.
Right.
Oh, well, those are good. So there are several that didn't get mentioned.
Go ahead and mention the ones you have that didn't get on there.
So we talked about Eric Stoltz. He was supposed to be in Back to the Future, but he did do a really good movie called Some Kind of Wonderful.
He did. That's a great movie.
I really like that movie.
Yes.
We have The Dead Poets Society.
Yes. I couldn't remember if that was late 80s or early 90s.
89.
Okay, so it's right there on the line, yeah. Which is a great movie.
It is such a good movie. We have Winona Ryder and Corey Haim in Luca.
Yes.
With the redhead from Goonies. What's her name?
Yes.
Yeah, the girl from
yeah.
Who did she play? The one that's not Martha Plimpton. Yes. I can't remember her name.
That's the one, yes.
Yes. We have, of course, we didn't mention Pretty in Pink.
Right.
You gotta have Ducky. Ducky is one of my favorites.
Ducky,
Prior.
most definitely.
You have Shag the movie.
What was it? Shag?
S-H-A-G. Shag the movie. You can't find it streaming anywhere. You can buy it on DVD. It's like $35.
Oh my gosh! Oh.
Yeah, that's how hard it is to find. But it is amazing, and it's about the 1960s as well.
Okay.
You have Can't Buy Me Love.
Yes. And McDreamy in his first role.
Patrick Dempsey, which I loved him in this.
I did too. In fact, once he got big on whatever the drum he was on. Nope.
Who Wants Me to List? Young Guns.
Oh, I didn't think about that being a teen movie, but yes.
I'm not sure it's actually a teen movie, but it's close.
It
is close.
Young.
They're very young, and I think some of them are teens. But yes, that's a great. Young Guns is great. That's my favorite Western. So
right. You've got The Adventures in Babysitting.
Yes, I knew that was missing from the list.
You've got
with Christina Applegate, right? Is she?
That's Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead.
That's right. You're right.
A 91 movie. It came out in 91.
Okay.
The Adventures in Babysitting is Elizabeth Shue, who played in Karate Kid.
That's right, Elizabeth Shue. Right, and the girl with the horn hat being Thorn.
Yes.
I mean, I've seen it. I like that movie. It's a good movie.
Yeah. You have a John Hughes movie that people forget is a John Hughes movie, The Great Outdoors.
The Great Outdoors.
You have St. Elmo's Fire.
That's more, aren't they? They're post
They're
college
college.
at that point.
They're
I
college
thought they were
level.
post college. Yeah.
They're college level. So yeah.
You know, there's a John Hughes movie I really didn't like.
What John?
That one.
Oh, that one.
St. Elmo's Fire. I just found horribly boring.
He did not actually. That was
John
Joel
Hughes didn't
Schumacher.
make St. Elmo's Fire.
Oh, okay.
That was Joel
there you
Schumacher.
Joel Schumacher.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I'm sorry.
A sure.
But it's a sure thing's a good one. Yes.
Revenge of the Nerds.
College, but
College, but they were teenagers. They're 18.
They were 18, 19. Yeah. And that's looking at that movie now is completely.
Oh, some of the things there's like nope, you can't do that. Nope.
Because consent in that movie, wow.
Yeah, but the number one movie that we didn't mention, that neither one of us mentioned, and I'm surprised you didn't mention it, is Teen Wolf.
Teen Wolf is a good one. I did think about Teen Wolf. If I'm going to go with one for Michael J. Fox, it's going to be
Back to the Future.
Back to the Future. But Teen Wolf's a good movie.
Was such
it's
a
fun.
good movie.
Yeah.
Those are my list of ones that I didn't miss.
No, those are a good list. So as you guys can see, I gave a long list before we started the movies I knew that weren't on either one of our lists, and AJ gave a list afterwards. So we did 14 movies between us of ones that had to be on the list, and then we've got 30 to 40 that didn't make the list. So this is not an easy thing. We could have each done 20 and still had movies not make the list.
Yes, but we would have been talking for 3 hours, and we didn't want that.
Because we're already at 2. So.
But guys, this is always a fun thing to do, and it's way harder. I'm glad that the professor let me narrow it down to the 80s.
Of course.
I don't.
You can always narrow it down. You can always narrow it down. And if you need me to pick where we narrow it, that's fine. But you can also tell me how you want to narrow it. So.
I'm like, thank you for doing that. But so we're gonna wrap it up today. But before we do, we always like to say, give shout outs to some of our friends who do very similar things that we do. We're gonna start off with the Ozpod Gals. They just came back from Semico. And did you see their costumes? Oh my gosh.
I did. There were some great costumes. Those girls
costumes.
are very talented.
They are. And they are live Thursday nights at 6 p.m. on Facebook. Now, sometimes it's not live. Sometimes it is pre-recorded. Sometimes they do live. But you can check them out on Facebook at 6 p.m. on Thursdays on their Facebook page. Be sure to give them a like.
The ones where it's not live, they did film in front of a live audience. So
yes.
That's not laugh track. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. But the ones that aren't live is like they have very specific things they're doing and stuff like that. So you're going to get all kinds of really fun things with them. And it's just great. Be sure when you go to these people's pages, whether it be the Ozpod Gals or any of our friends that we're going to mention, hit like. If you go to the YouTube, subscribe, like, share, comment. We all like that. And it lets us know that you're listening and that you enjoy what we're doing. So be sure to
with the Ozpod Gals, we do try to rebroadcast it on the Geeky Kool, so you can check it out there if you miss it on Facebook, but definitely check out their Facebook page.
Yeah. We have our Nerd Informants, Tim and Josh. They are on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter. They just got back from SpaCon.
They did.
And that looked like so much fun. They are great because they give you all kinds of information and they get some great interviews with some people. I know Josh is working on a couple right now. I know he just confirmed one. I can't remember who it was with, but he just confirmed one. So go on their Facebook page, check it out because it's going to be on there. And then you can kind of see who they're going to be interviewing and stuff for the Nerd Informants.
There's always good interviews.
Yeah. The Nerd Informants also have a page on Facebook for the fans and the nerdy people. So you can go to Nerd Informants Beyond, and it's where you can add things and you can share memes, ask questions, all kinds of things. Let us know if there's events going on, that sort of thing. And anyone can share, and they just want it to be a community kind of page for us nerdy, geeky people. So go check that out. We have Keith and Gary over at Pop Culture Minefield, and they are going to be very similar to us, except they get way better scoops than we do. And they're not as quite as kid friendly. So be prepared. You don't necessarily want to be listening to them if you have little ears around the room because they might pick up language. But they're great for any kind of, you want to know what's really going on behind the scenes. They'll be able to tell you. But go give them a like, subscribe, that sort of thing. And they like hearing from you guys too. So be sure to comment because that's important for us. Keith has his own show, and it's over on the Fat Steven Seagal show over on YouTube, and it's called Keith Chimes In, and it's on Mondays at 3 p.m. over there. And is he still talking Babylon 5?
He is. Talking about Babylon 5, did you see the news?
Yes. It's getting rebooted.
It's getting rebooted. So with the involvement of J. Michael Straczynski, who created it. So it's not just somebody's bought it, it's going to do a reboot. This is actually from the creator doing this. So that's kind of cool. So
that'll be good. And I'm sure Keith has some insights on that or some.
I'm sure he does.
So be sure to go check out Keith Chimes In. Then we have the Scallywag over at Scallywag Productions on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. He posts pictures of his collectible of the day. And he is just going to have all kinds of information. We are going to start filming again soon. I know he keeps saying that. Health issues have always been an issue this last 6 months. But we're hoping that in the next few weeks that he can start doing
Fingers
that.
Crossed.
We're getting answers for some of his health questions, hopefully, and maybe we can get back to our filming schedule. He's got several ideas for new shows. I'm not sure which ones will stick. I'm not sure which ones he'll do, but you never know with the Scallywag, so go check him out. And don't forget to hit subscribe.
Hang on. I want to ask you this. Okay, so I have an idea for a new series that is basically like movie reviews.
Yeah.
But with a twist. Not really a twist, I guess, but
A strange take.
Sure. AJ thinks it would be better suited for TikTok or something, but I'm not doing TikTok. So say just for example, it's a, you see the thumbnail there and it's movie review for
Breakfast Club.
For the Breakfast Club. You click it. Comes up on the screen. Today's movie, The Breakfast Club. Cuts to me, and I say, I love it. End of video. So the whole video is about 5 seconds long.
Right. The introduction's longer than the actual. Yeah. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Yeah. See, if you want to waste your money, it's fine, whatever.
Get in, get to the point, get out.
Well, I can see why she would say TikTok or something like that. I mean, because that's pretty short. I mean,
right?
I mean, you can do that. You can.
It would be perfect on TikTok. If you like movie review, this movie, I loved it. I hated it. Wasted
it was
money.
okay.
It is okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, no, he's floating around all kinds of ideas. So who knows what he'll come up with that actually gets filmed and gets put on to Scallywag Productions. But
well, we're here to support you, Spoo. So whatever you want to do, if you need us, and of course you've got AJ right there with you, and she'll be doing stuff with you also.
Very helpful.
But we're here at Geeky KOOL. We're here backing you, and if you need something, let us know. So
I thank you so much for that.
And
you're welcome.
Speaking of Geeky KOOL, have you checked out GeekyKOOL.com?
That's cool with a K.
Head on over to www.GeekyKOOL.com. It's your one-stop shop for all things nerd.
I love that. That's just beautiful, Spoo. Beautiful.
We're on Facebook. Of course, you're either watching us on Facebook or on YouTube, so you know we're on one of them.
We're on both.
Woo! But we also have our own website. We have contributors who don't do the videos like we do, but they write amazing articles. They give you lists. They tell you what they like, what they're doing, all kinds of things, and just amazing contributors. I can't say enough about our team that they just bring us all these different perspectives for all kinds of things, and it's just amazing. So if you're into anything at all, I'm sure we have a contributor who is gonna write about it sometime.
Most definitely. And if you're in anime, we've got a couple of contributors for that. Check that out because that is a niche that's not as well done. So we do have some people, and there's some new anime stuff coming out on Netflix. So I mean, there should be a lot more to talk about with that coming up. So there's all sorts of stuff going on. We should be having another video channel starting soon. Our new animated contributor Ray should be starting up soon. Had to get some things in real life taken care of, but should be starting up. Yeah, it certainly does. So hopefully that'll be happening soon. So you should be seeing more videos.
I can never say her last name.
Yeah, I've given up trying.
It's a Japanese name. I love it, but I can never say it. I just can't.
I'm with you. So
I will watch it, and she does tell you her name in the video. She does have one. We've got one video, right?
Yes, we do.
We have one video, an introduction, but it's so much fun. And I just love the mind behind it and like all kinds of things. Very much gamer and like cartoons, anime, those sort of things, and it's just all combined into an animated contributor.
I know, which is going to be so awesome. It's already awesome. It's going to be more awesome when the videos are coming out regularly. I just can't wait for it. So check us out, guys. We've got a lot of things coming up and changing, and we're hoping to even get some cooler stuff going on in Geeky Kool. So I'm about to drop several more trailers after we're off of here. So because there's been a slew of trailers coming out in the last couple of days. So check those out.
Movies.
Which is phenomenal. So a lot of really cool looking stuff. I mean, just some really amazing stuff. I did drop talking about anime. I dropped an anime trailer earlier for Arcane. That thing looks super cool. Right. It's part steampunk. It's anime. I was like, oh my gosh. Okay, where am I gonna have the time to watch all this stuff? I mean, that's a great problem compared to where because in the 80s, which we were just talking about. There wasn't, I mean, there were good movies and there were some good series, but it was limited. We have so much available that's awesome right now.
And, hopefully, like with getting back to movies, we can do that movie going experience again,
we sure can.
We've been doing it, but, slowly and safely and still social distancing and wearing masks and that sort of thing. But, yeah, it'll be nice to just have a consistent go to a movie once a month kind of thing, which is I think on the plan for the rest of the year for us.
See, there you go. Well, I know you guys just saw a movie that I saw also, so we're going to do a review, probably more than just 2 seconds of it was great. So
we'll go in depth.
We'll go a little more in depth. So all right, guys. Well, thank you for joining us again. It's over 2 hours. Sorry about that. That's just the way it goes. It's become our norm. We're long-winded, especially me. So all right. Well, till next week, stay geeky out there, and we'll talk to you guys later.